For decades, there have been these whispers, these unsettling stories coming out of America's most secure military sites. You know, the very places we keep our nuclear weapons? Well, today we're going to dive into a declassified history, one that's been pieced together from years of research, and it tells a pretty wild story of silent observers and some truly unnerving interference.
And look, this isn't science fiction. According to research at Robert Hastings, who has spent more than 30 years digging through declassified files and gathering firsthand testimony, there's a clear pattern of strange activity right around our nuclear arsenal. The best part? The sources for this story aren't just random conspiracy theorists. They're the very people who had their fingers on the button.
We're talking about more than 50 U.S. Air Force veterans. These are colonels, missile launch officers, security police, you name it. These are people who went through intense background checks and psych evaluations, all to be trusted with weapons of mass destruction. And it's their testimony that really forms the backbone of this whole incredible story.
So our story really kicks off with one of the most dramatic and frankly best documented cases on record. It's an incident that suggests whatever these things were, they were doing a lot more than just watching.
10. That number you see, that's how many nuclear-tipped Minuteman missiles suddenly and just inexplicably went offline at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. 10 weapons of mass destruction, all rendered useless at the exact same time.
So here's how it went down in March of '67 at Malmstrom. It all started when security police reported a UFO just hovering over a missile field. Moments later, boom, an entire flight of 10 ICBMs goes off alert. They're completely shut down. But what's really telling is what happened next. According to First Lieutenant Robert Jamison, a targeting officer there, the maintenance crews started getting special UFO briefings. They were literally being told how to respond if one of these things showed up. So it seems the Air Force was taking this threat very, very seriously, even while they were denying it publicly.
Can you imagine the atmosphere on that base? It was electric. Robert Salas, who was a crew commander on duty during a similar event, totally confirms it. He said rumors were flying everywhere, and some of the troops were, in his exact words, flat scared. I mean, they just watched our most powerful weapons get shut down by something they couldn't explain.
And yet, you go look at the official record. The official history of the 341st Missile Wing says, flat out, that rumors of UFOs were disproven. But that just doesn't line up with the consistent testimony from multiple officers who were actually there. They all insist UFO involvement was real, and it was being openly discussed. This kind of contradiction, as you'll see, is a recurring theme here.
Now here's the crucial point. Malmstrom wasn't just some freak one-off event. The research shows it was actually part of a much bigger, decades-long pattern of surveillance over our most sensitive military sites.
And this pattern was widespread. I mean, just look at this list. We've got personnel reporting UFO activity at nuclear bases from the 60s all the way into the 90s. From New Mexico to Maine, Wyoming to Michigan, the reports were incredibly consistent. Strange objects showing this intense interest in our nuclear bombers and missile silos.
Take Walker Air Force Base in New Mexico, for example. First Lieutenant Jerry C. Nelson described how his guards would just frantically call in reports of these silent, bright objects hovering right over the silos, shining lights down. And there's that word again. He says the guards were scared.
And if you think this is all just witness testimony, well, we even have declassified NORAD logs from another Malmstrom incident in '75 that back this up. NORAD scrambles 2 F-106 fighter jets to intercept an object. Get this, as the jets get close, the UFO's lights go out. The jets leave, the lights pop back on. The log literally describes it as a cat and mouse game that ends when the object just accelerates to a high velocity and poof, it's gone.
So all of this just begs the question, right? If these incredible events were being seen by credible military personnel and even tracked on radar, why isn't this common knowledge? Well, this next part looks at the powerful ways silence was enforced.
A key tool in all this was something called the Personnel Reliability Program, or PRP. Now, on paper, it's just a program to make sure only the most stable people work with nukes. But according to the guys who were there, it was also a powerful threat. If you reported something unreliable, like, say, a UFO, your commander could order a psych evaluation. The implication was crystal clear. You talk, your career's probably over.
And that threat wasn't always just implied. After a sighting in 1992, Staff Sergeant Joseph Brown testified that his captain told his security team this, point blank,
I wouldn't go around talking about it. You guys are under PRP, remember that. I mean, that is a chillingly effective way to make sure people keep their mouths shut.
And if that didn't work, there was always just simple direct denial. At Walker Air Force Base, a whole missile team watches jets get scrambled to chase UFOs across the sky. The very next day, in their debriefing, the official response is, "What UFOs? We didn't send up any fighters." The message couldn't be clearer. What you saw with your own eyes, it didn't happen.
So, after all that, where does this leave us? Let's try to pull all these threads together, because it forces us to confront one really, really unsettling question.
What we have, according to all this source material, is this compelling story built from dozens and dozens of accounts, all from vetted military professionals. And they describe decades of systematic surveillance and, in cases like Malmstrom, direct interference with our nuclear weapons by some kind of unknown intelligence with technology that is just light years beyond our own.
And that leads us to the final, lingering question that just hangs over all of this. If these accounts are true, why? Why would a technology that can run circles around our fastest jets and shut down our most powerful weapons be so intensely, so persistently interested in our nuclear arsenal? Is it a warning, a threat, or just curiosity? The testimony doesn't give us an answer, but it definitely forces us to ask the question.